welcome to the fourth episode of the Gerrim Onside podcast with myself, Nathan Major, and joining me as always, Ian Judson.
Hello there, everybody. Sorry we're a bit late this week.
Yes, due to some work
It's been a bit of a hectic week, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. We've had to squeeze in this slightly late podcast, but we're here better late than never on a Wednesday instead of a Monday. So I'll kick us off as always then with our results roundup taken from the website. So we'll start off with the Men's Super League. Lee Leopards 14, Leeds Rhinos 22, probably the tie of the round. We'll talk about that a bit later. Wakefield Trinity 4, St Helens 34, Warrington Wolves 18, Wigan Warriors 24, Hull KR 36, Castleford Tigers 6, Huddersfield Giants 18, Catalans Dragons 6, and Hull FC 80, Salford Red Devils 6, which we will be covering in detail later on. Down under in Australia, in the men's Telstra Premiership, Melbourne Storm 22, Brisbane Broncos 2, Newcastle Knights 12, Penrith Panthers 48, Canberra Raiders 28, Manly Seagulls 12, St George Illawarra Dragons 22, Cronulla Sharks 14, Dolphins 12, Sydney Roosters 64, Canterbury Bulldogs 32, New Zealand Warriors 14, Gold Coast Titans 18, South Sydney Rabbitohs 20, moving the Bunnies off the foot of the table, and Parramatta Eels 19, North Queensland Cowboys 18. So a couple of close games to round out the NRL weekend there.
And some blowouts as well. There seems to be a few more of them this season than you'd normally expect down under.
Yes, it's been a proper mixed bag of a season in the NRL. You don't really know what to expect from week to week.
A lot like here, to be fair. Yeah.
And the women's NRL Premiership, St George Illawarra Dragons 6, Cronulla Sharks 20, Newcastle Knights 30, West Tigers 6, Canterbury Bulldogs 6, New Zealand Warriors 34, Gold Coast Titans 8, Sydney Roosters 24, Canberra Raiders 28, Brisbane Broncos 44, Parramatta Eels 10, North Queensland Cowboys 14. Over here, the women had an international test game which finished Wales 0, England 62. That played in Wales last Saturday. In the men's championship, Bradford Bulls 18, Doncaster 12. Close game there. London Broncos 18, Toulouse 24. Halifax Panthers 46, Sheffield Eagles 6. Hunslet 0, York Knights 56. Oldham 44, Barrow Raiders 30. Widnes Vikings 30, Batley Bulldogs 10. And finally, in the Men's League One, Dewsbury Rams 20, Workington Town 36. Gull Vikings 28, Swinton Lions 4. Keighley
Good result that for goal, definitely.
Yes, very good. Keighley Cougars 56, Newcastle Thunder 0, Rochdale Hornets 20, North Wales Crusaders 16. A surprise there for the League One league leaders. Whitehaven 26, Midlands Hurricanes 26. So then, Ian, what was your tie of the round from the Super League this week?
I think the really interesting one was Warrington against Wigan. I thought it was a lot closer than I expected it to be. And, as good as the game was between Lee and Leeds, I thought Warrington really, they surprised me somewhat, because I thought after the way they lost the game at Lee the previous week, I thought that's probably going to be them done and they're going to be, flat as a pancake, but they really came out and they stuck it to Wigan. And I think we have to give them due appreciation as well for the fact that they got over that, because you put a team in a situation like that at Warrington, and Warrington, they took the lead with a fantastic try from Josh Thewlis, didn't they? And, and there was plenty of belief there, and there was plenty of aggressive defending and all the rest of it, and Warrington really went for it. So for Wigan to get over the top of that, I think shows real champion quality from Wigan.
Yeah, I think they're a bit of a paradox at the moment, Wigan, because they're struggling to pull it together in a way that we recognise as Wigan, but they're also finding a way to eke out a win at the very end. It was close at Warrington. They came very close to losing at Huddersfield
You
and
watch, they'll go and score
Castleford.
50 this week.
Be quiet, you.
But would it surprise you if they did, though?
Yes, it would.
Being really honest, would it really surprise you? Or would it be as much of a shock as it would be if it was any other team?
Well, given Hull KR's defensive record, I think it would be a big shock for them to ship that many points in one game. But I think that's the game that everyone's had circled in the diary for quite a while, isn't it? Hull KR and Wigan this Friday, because it not only dictates which way the league leaders shield race might go, but it's a good indication of what might happen if the match was to be replayed in a grand final as well.
I mean, there's a lot of connotations running off it, isn't there? Rovers looking for revenge because, I mean, let's be honest, when Wigan came to Craven Park, they were sort of quite ruthless in the second half, weren't they? And that wouldn't have gone down well with Willie Peters and his team, and it certainly didn't go down well with Rovers fans.
No.
I just think if Wigan were to do that again, I wonder how much that would affect Rovers' belief to think that they can go on and possibly win the treble. If Wigan were to give them a similar treatment, I just don't know what that would do.
I think it's the case of us knowing that we owe Wigan one, not just for what happened earlier this season, but what happened.
I think you owe Wigan several, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Because it could be argued that we should have beaten them at their place at the end of last season. I mean, I was at that game, and it wasn't. I don't think it was necessarily the referee decisions like a lot of Rovers fans think it was. I think it came down to us not having the edge to see the game out and us lacking a proper goal kicker. Because had we had a proper goal kicker, we'd have won that game because we'd have scored more points. But that's hay byes and wherefores, isn't it? And there's nothing you can do about those.
That's it. Yeah, and I just I've just been at the Hull FC press conference ahead of the game against Leigh, and when you look at things, looking at the Rovers the way they are with Wigan, they made that big thing earlier in the year that in the last year they'd beaten every team except Wigan, and that is a belief thing. Like I said, I was just at Hull FC press conference with Will Price and John Cartwright, and I said after that game on Sunday, it just felt like that whole home win hoodoo had been thoroughly put to bed. I know we've lost to Huddersfield at home recently, but we'd beaten Wakefield Trinity, and then they've gone and done that job on Salford, and it just felt like that was it, over and done with. And that for Hull moving forward into this weekend, I know we'll get to that game later, but moving forward into this week, that's important for Hull. Like I think it's important for Rovers and Wigan going into Friday night. Wigan, I suppose they know they've got the wood over Rovers, haven't they, at the moment?
Yeah.
And, how does that affect both camps? I think could be interesting to see how that works out.
I think if Rovers go to the Brick on Friday and they win, that will give me more belief that we're capable of winning the treble. Because right now, and for the season, for as much of the hype that we've had and people wanting to believe, I've been a little bit sceptical. After the Challenge Cup win, I've always said we've got one more trophy in us, but I think it's a little bit of a stretch to think we'll go for all three. But if we can go to Wigan and beat them on Friday, then I think I get a little bit more belief that we've finally got that edge of a championship team that can go and win it all. But in the same breath, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. I think it becomes more of a possibility if we manage to get over that stumbling block at Wigan.
Yeah, and what does it do if you don't get over that stumbling block at Wigan?
Well, in my opinion, it's not the end of the world, because at the end of the day, we've got a 4-point gap. So if we lose to Wigan, we've got a 2-point gap with more than 100 points difference, which is an extra point at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It then makes the Leeds game the following week a must-win situation, because even if we go to Leeds and we lose, we're still still like it to be head on points difference, but you don't want to be reliant on that. So I think we need
Well,
to.
I mean, can I point something out? I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that Wigan have another game at home against Salford. So I'm just wondering how much that 100 extra points difference matters. Considering if I'm right on that, don't take it as read, but I have a feeling that they have got another game against Salford, and considering what we just did to Salford, I can shudder to think what Wigan would do to them.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
But
I know that
I might
Rovers
be wrong
don't.
about that.
Yeah,
I would need to check that out, but
I
I
think
have
I
a feeling
remember reading in about July that the last game Wigan had against a bottom half side was Castleford, and they were the last, and every one of their other fixtures was against a playoff team or a team that is
well,
ostensibly chasing the playoffs.
to be
But
fair,
the same could be
you
said of
could almost say
Rovers.
the same about Castle if they play Castleford. You know
Yeah,
how much of a dent can they put into it then
yeah,
potentially. But like I said, I had a feeling that they did. I might be wrong, but you know, even if they're playing if they're at home against Castleford, you know, how much of a dent can they put in that? But who knows?
no,
Who
it's
knows?
all.
A lot of people were saying that when we were going to go play there last year, that they could put a dent in the points difference then.
Yeah,
And they beat us 22 points to 4, and we were all saying to Rovers, right, favour done, you know, because we didn't get a cricket score against us that could have really damaged their chances then.
yeah, and of course there's the Bevan French factor. I think there's a certain amount of mind games going on with Matt Pete as to how much he's giving away in his press interviews as to whether Bevan French. Luke Thompson's not in the 21, so he's definitely not playing.
Well,
Bevan
Bevan
French
French, I'm
is.
sure, will play because he was in the 21 for the game at Warrington, you know, and they're not going to put him in if they don't think he was close.
Well, the talk
I would
the
dare say
talk
he will
was
play this week.
the talk was coming out of the Warrington game that Luke Thompson was closer to fitness than Bevan French was. And if Luke Thompson's not made the 21 and Bevan French has, that makes me think there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on there on the part of Matty Peyton, which is fair enough because I'm sure that we'd do the same thing. We
Aren't
have
you?
done the same
Well,
thing.
yeah, you're doing the same with young Mikey Lewis, aren't you? Because it's like, oh, will he, won't he play it? Or will he
Yeah.
be 100%? Because I'm in a shoulder stinger.
Mm.
It's not a nice thing to try and deal with. And when you've got when you're trying to deal with a pack the size of
Yeah.
Wigan, do you really want your best player carrying an injury like that in a game like that? It's for the man games of Bevan French, read the man games of Mikey Lewis as well, I would suggest.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Mikey Lewis, I don't think he's a player we can afford to lose, given we don't have Tyrone May. I think had Tyrone May been fit and been playing, I would have been comfortable with saying to let him rest for the week. But I think we need him, and I think Rowan Milnes possibly plays alongside him as well on Friday.
Yeah,
instead of deputising Artur Morgs. Not that Artur Morg did a bad job at halfback against Castleford, but he's one of the best
he's not in those
fullbacks in the league, isn't he?
with Mikey Lewis, is he? He's used to playing fullback, and now here he is again, being shunted around a bit. You know, having to go in the halves, but then again, you've got Rowan Milnes on loan, so
yeah,
you've got him on loan for a reason. I'm not sure what it was because he couldn't play against his parent club last week anyway, but he could play this week. So who knows? Who knows what the thinking is?
some of the chatter around the Rovers fans is that he was brought in to be part of defensive training drills, but I think there's probably more to it than that. I would think you wouldn't.
Well, I mean, he's in your 21-man squad. You don't go out and get a player in on loan to for training. You got a reserve squad for that, haven't you? But
yeah, definitely.
And I know he's in the Rovers 21-man squad for Friday, isn't he? So
he is, yes. Which is missing Mickey McAlorum, who seems to be the one that got injured in training that was hinted at by Willie Peters in his press earlier this week. So Mickey McAlorum will be missing. I don't think it makes all that much of a difference. He's a big part of our defensive effort in the first 20
if McIlroy
minutes.
is out, it's massively important. Rowan Milnes takes on a whole new guise then, because of course your other thing, if you had McIlroy playing, is that you would potentially put Jez Litton in the halves, but without McIlroy, that option ain't there, is it?
Well, it's as someone in the Daily Mail said, you wouldn't play Mikey Lewis and Jez Litton as a half-back partnership because they're both left-footed. So you wouldn't put them in a half-back partnership together because it makes you a one-sided team.
And is Rowan Milnes not left-footed as well?
I don't think, because I think that's why he played Arthur Morgan in the halves last week, because Arthur Morgan is right-footed and Mikey Lewis is left-footed, so you had an option either way. I'm not sure on Rowan Milnes, but I suppose we shall find out on Friday.
Sure he's left-footed. We need Simo here. He's a Castleford fan. He could tell us, but I'll ask him later.
Yeah. So, getting off the topic of Rovers and Wigan and moving on to a elephant in the room, which was a big talking point in the last few days. Your team's demolition of the Salford Red Devils on Sunday. It was as I said on the Facebook page, it was a terrible advert for the game, but I didn't mean that to sound in any way derogatory towards Hull FC, because Hull went out and did the job they had to do. They did what they needed to do. It was a bad look on the sport for what Salford has become.
Both our teams could say they've been involved in an 86-point thriller against Salford.
Yeah, true. But it's not a good look for the sport, is it?
It's not. No, it's disgusting. And I put it in my video at the end of the match in the media suite. I said it was a disgusting spectacle, and that's exactly what it was. Paul Rowley came in for his press conference afterwards, and the Salford media manager, he was like, does anybody want to ask Rolls any questions, or can he just get off? And you could see he didn't want to be there. He looked absolutely broken, but he was absolutely classy as well. He was like, there was one journalist stuck his hand up and said, yeah, I'll ask a few questions. And then he came and he sat down and he said, there don't seem to be many here. I'll be governed by you guys. If there's anybody else wants to ask questions, get them in here and ask me them. And he was absolutely full of class, but you could see it just, he didn't want to be there. And it's a disgusting situation. I think the RFL and the owners of Salford really need to take responsibility for this now, and something needs to happen. We've had that statement from Salford, from the owners, which frankly didn't impress me. It just seemed a bit forced and desperate.
I'm going to read out that statement soon so we can we can see what it says.
Well, I mean, that'll be a nice segue. You read out the statement.
Yeah.
And,
so
can make their own minds up, can't they?
So the following was a statement posted by Salford on Monday the 11th, and it's headlined "Salford Red Devils secure financial stability and reaffirm commitment to long-term growth." This is a bit wordy, so bear with me, those listening. Following a challenging financial period, that's an understatement, Salford Red Devils are pleased to announce a significant step forward in securing the club's future. Since the acquisition in February, the club has faced a number of financial hurdles, primarily stemming from legacy debt linked to a historical arrangement between the previous owner and Salford City Council. An essential £1.8 million investment pledged by an external backer and anticipated by November 2024 failed to materialise, significantly disrupting the club's financial planning. Matters worsened in May when Salford City Council unexpectedly withdrew from negotiations to purchase the AJ Bell Stadium, a key element of the club's investment strategy. This decision, in breach of agreed non-disclosure agreements, undermined funding plans and discouraged potential investors by prolonging uncertainty around existing debts. For clarity, the club has met all contractual obligations and complied fully with NDAs throughout the stadium discussions. Despite recent setbacks, the club is in the process of establishing a new team to stabilise operations moving forward, alongside securing bridge funding that restores immediate financial stability and lays the foundation for a sustainable future. This marks a turning point and underscores the consortium's long-term commitment to the Red Devils. Salford's proud legacy remains one of its greatest strengths. As recent uncertainty subsides, the club is confident it will attract fresh talent, inspire to contribute to the rebuilding of a storied institution. We are committed to creating an environment where players, staff, and supporters can thrive. The departure of our previous CEO in May led to a gap in official communications. We acknowledge this disruption and assure our community that renewed efforts are underway to maintain transparent and consistent updates moving forward. Chronic underfunding, exacerbated by advance attendance figures of approximately 4,000, has left the club in a state of prolonged financial stress. This is not a reflection on any former ownership, but rather a systematic issue we are determined to resolve. Our focus remains firmly on long-term solvency and stability. We remain open to resuming discussions with Salford City Council regarding stadium ownership. Despite misleading comments from certain council staff on social media, we continue to seek a professional, constructive dialogue and await a substantive response. While some player departures have occurred due to ongoing financial uncertainty, even after sharing full funding documentation, we respect those decisions and remain committed to transparent operations and a strong team culture. The bridge funding will be fully available and settled by the end of August, to be repaid by the club's ownership group as part of their long-term investment. Our consortium remains fully committed to supporting Salford Red Devils sustainably. The club's next legal engagement with HMRC is scheduled for the 3rd of September. We understand the frustration many fans feel, but we want to be clear, Salford Red Devils will not close. We have consistently met wage obligations under difficult conditions and continue to tackle over £3 million in inherited debt. Your patience and support are deeply appreciated as we work to return Salford Red Devils to its rightful position in the sport. So, right from the off, the start of the statement seems to be trying to pass the buck on to
blame
previous ownership. Else. Previous ownership, City Council, and not taking responsibility for their own decisions, basically.
Yeah, blame everybody else, in other words. Sorry, don't wash with me. If they've got the money to buy the stadium and buy the land, why haven't they got the money for people's wages each month? You know, where are they getting their income from? You know, they're making an income somewhere. You know, if they're making enough of an income, they're going to buy that land and buy that stadium and put a hotel on it, etc. Where's that money now? What's it doing? But to me, I mean, Sunday, I messaged a few people. I said I was getting no pleasure out of watching that. You know, you'd think Martin running in, what was it, 15 tries, something like that? You'd think I'd be absolutely bouncing. Not a bit of it. Absolutely not. It just, to me, it was disgusting. And it was embarrassing. And it was bad for the sport. And I'm going to say that till the day I die, that it was bad for the sport. And it has been all season. These people, the owners really need to take responsibility, take ownership of the problems. You know, from what I understand, the coaches from the transport company took the coach to get them there, and the bill for the laundrette to get the kits back had to be paid by central funding. How embarrassing is that? Surely, if these people have got enough money to buy the land and buy the stadium, they've got enough to pay bills like that, surely.
Yeah.
So what on earth is going on?
Does anyone actually believe that this bridging funding is coming by the end of August? Because it was supposedly coming.
Well, I mean,
it was coming in May, wasn't it?
Coming, why isn't it there now?
Yeah.
You know, what is happening with it? Where is it? You know, why can you say, "Oh, it's coming by the end of August"? How can you say that if it's going to be there? It should be there now when it's absolutely needed.
Yeah, and it's
surely.
I mean, the game finished.
If I'm wrong, but
the game finished 80 points to 6, but it could have quite easily have been more. And I think there was
Hull could have scored 100.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Because I said after 60 minutes, I was watching it, and I said to my dad, because I think it got to 70-0 after 60 minutes. I thought Hull are going to break 100 points here, but I think there was a certain amount of sympathy from Hull players, empathy.
I think there was, yeah. And of course, you've got to consider the fact as well that Will Price and John Asiata were both playing, and they've just both come back from 10 to 12 weeks out. You know, they were never going to go for a full 80 minutes at full pelt, were they? You know, there were players out there who were knackered, who were, you know, I mean, when you think of the heat that game was being played in as well was ridiculous. You know, you were never going to get a full flowing Hull FC, or you wouldn't have got a full flowing any team on that day. And they were playing against a team that, as Paul Rowley said, some of the players in it, he didn't meet them until they were on the coach on the way to Hull on Sunday morning.
Yeah, and that's just an indication. Well, there's two indications for me of how bad the situation has gotten at Salford, and it's the fact that some of the team didn't even train together before they played together. And what were the shirt numbers up to? Something like 64?
Number 63.
63, yeah. Which just shows how... I mean, Hull FC had it to a certain degree last season when they got to about 52.
We got to number 55, but that was with two young debutants on the final day.
Yeah.
Before that, we got to 53. So Salford have got now to 63, and they've still got 6 more games to go. And Paul Rowley actually even said it in his press conference. He said, before too long, we're going to run out of shirts.
Yeah.
They don't think they can get anybody else in. You know, some of those players that they got, they were only on 1 week loans. He said we could have a whole different team again next week.
Yeah, I think it's Paul Rowley is one of the ones I feel most sorry for, because I think he deserves so much better than what he's currently getting at Salford. And I hope that the rumours surrounding him going to Castleford are true in a way, because I think he deserves a good job at building something else.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I'll try and dig something up in the press box this weekend and see what I can find out. But the last I heard, it was going to be is it Ryan Carr from Australia that apparently
I've heard that name linked to it.
Has wanted right since the get-go. And apparently it looks like it's going to be him that's going to be appointed. Whether he maybe takes Rowley on as an assistant, I don't know. Or, you know, because Ryan Carr, I think, is he an more of an assistant?
Yeah, he's an assistant in the NRL at the moment.
Would he maybe be coming in as an assistant to Paul Rowley? Possibly, I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
I mean, we saw a similar situation unfold last week when Salford played Rovers. I think it got a lot worse in the week after Salford played Rovers to when they played Hull, because obviously they lost another 4 or 5 players. They lost another one.
Well, I mean, they lost their 2 best players that they had left, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, Jack Ormondroyd and Ryan Briley both going to Oldham.
It also emerged just before we started recording that one of the directors has left as well. It was reported on Company's House. So who knows what that might mean, but it means that they have one less person on their board of directors. But at the moment, nobody really knows who's responsible for what at the club, do they? But
I don't think so.
But we send our best wishes to all at Salford, especially to the new fan group that's just formed, the
1873.
The 1873, who were playing.
Power to the 1873.
Exactly.
Because they're doing a march, aren't they?
Yes,
to their game on Sunday to try and generate some more media interest. And I can't say as I blame them. You know, you'd be hard pressed to think of anything else that you can do at this point in time. So let's see what that may what maybe shakes loose from that.
So all the best to the 1873 for their march on Sunday, and we just hope, for the sake of Salford and the sake of the sport as a whole, that there is a resolution on the horizon somewhere for Salford as a club.
Let's hope so. Yes.
So moving on to more positive news. Well, positive news if you're a Leeds Rhinos fan, because it was broken on Monday that Brad Arthur has agreed to stay at least for 2026, possibly beyond. So do you think this is good news for the Rhinos? Do you think Brad Arthur's made a positive change there?
I think so, yes. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think under Brad Arthur, Leeds Rhinos could be champions again at some point. I really do, because they've got the resources, haven't they? Certainly. And in Brad Arthur, they've got a coach who's getting the very best out of certain players. I know Lockie Miller can be somewhat controversial, can't he? Jake Connor is definitely getting the very best out of him, isn't he? And he's a superstar coach, and he'd walk into a job in the NRL. We know that because he's done it before. So to have him at Leeds for another year, I think, is a massive boost for Leeds Rhinos and for the Betfred Super League. I think it's fantastic news, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we can't rule them out this year, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see them in the big dance at Old Trafford at the end of next season, certainly.
I think what's happening at Leeds under Brad Arthur at the moment is they're building the foundations of getting back to where they used to be. They're not quite there yet, as we've seen. Their consistency can be a bit hit and miss.
Yeah, it can be, but they're winning games that people maybe wouldn't have expected them to win previously. For some reason, people weren't giving them much of a chance of winning at Lee last week.
I know that I went for Lee to win last week, and I was proven wrong.
Right.
So.
Oh no, I said Leeds would win, because I just think it's that sort of a season. But Leeds, they're winning games, that previously they maybe would have lost. Like if that game against Leeds last year, Leeds lose that game. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. So, to get over the top of Lee and in the way that they did, I think the sky's the limit for them. I think, like I said, I don't think they're going to win the grand final this year. But like I say, with Brad Arthur in charge for another season, because, this has been his first full season in charge, and it's all been a bit, they weren't sure whether he would even be there this year, were they? Now it's been decided in advance. He can do what he needs to do, get what players in he wants. He can really make it his squad, and they could really challenge next year.
Of course, the good thing about Leeds as a club is they're a solid setup from top to bottom. I mean, from until the end of this year, they've had Gary Hetherington, who's been their chief executive for about 30 years now. But they've got Jamie Jones Buchanan coming in, who knows the club inside and out. They have quality people from the top to the bottom at Leeds. So even a supposed crisis period isn't as bad as what some other clubs would be. But they're sort of laying the foundations now, and you're starting to see the shoots of a new golden generation, I think, because you've got Alfie Edgell, you've got Riley Lum, you've got
Riley Lum, who was sent on loan to Salford.
Yeah,
Jared I think that's just to get him some game time, because he hasn't played for a few weeks, has he?
Oh, yeah, which is
strange. The reserve season is over and done with, so.
It is strange that Riley Lum's not getting in, because he's their top scorer this season. He can't get in their squad.
But they're going with Alfie Edgell at the moment, and they're saying Ryan Hall, and to displace him would certainly take some doing, wouldn't it?
I mean, to be fair, when you're behind Ryan Hall, there's no one better you can learn from, really, is than having someone like Ryan Hall
Well, that's true.
around the club.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
there are worse ways for Riley Lum to spend a year than be back up to Ryan Hall, I think. And I
But
think he'll be
having
quite
said
happy to
that,
sit under that learning tree.
what I would say is, looking forward into next season, don't forget Micah Sevo will be back playing next season.
Yes, yeah, there's that as well. And it remains to be seen what sort of impact he'll have, because obviously he's been robbed of a season this year. But it's an interesting and exciting time to be a Rhinos fan.
Having said that, I've been told in recent weeks at Hull FC press conferences there is the possibility that a certain Mr. Lingy Sow could potentially turn out for Hull again this season. So I wonder, given that, what the situation is with Micah Sevo. Is it possible, assuming Leeds nail down their playoff spot, which they're going to do, and they get into the playoffs, would there be a possibility of Micah Sevo being, in a position possibly to make a comeback just before or in the playoffs?
Could Lingy Sow play for Hull, though, because you haven't got any quarter spots available now? So would it be possible for him to even play for you this season?
Yes.
Because you brought in Liam Knight to take his quarter place.
But I know it's been said that it's possible he could play.
I wonder if that's something to do with
Liam Knight is out for the rest of the
season. Yeah, so I wonder if they deregister him and re-register Lingy Sow. But
I don't know, but it's certainly been mentioned that he possibly could play for Hull. And it's possible that he may stay for next season. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see anyway. So,
but having said that, look, we're talking about Brad Arthur. So one would suggest that it's possible. Also, it seems the worst kept secret that possibly we might have signed his son, Jake Arthur. So that would be another Australian. But of course, next season it becomes it's a 10 quarter places next season rather than 7, isn't it? So
does make me wonder where he fits in with, because obviously you've got Cade Cust and you've got Aidan Caesar, and Will Price plays in the half sometimes as well. So
Will Price
bringing in another half
fullback.
Yeah,
Carty has been very clear about that. He says Will Price is better at fullback. And that's where he's intending to play him.
It certainly makes it seem like the Jack Charles to Rovers rumoured move seems on the cards if you're bringing in another halfback from Australia.
You know what? I wouldn't be so sure about that. I really wouldn't, because every time John Cartwright gets asked about it, he gets quite animated. He doesn't want it happening. I know personally, for a fact, Jack Charles doesn't want to move to Rovers. However, it's Yestin Harris, his agent, who's pushing this. And, as his agent, effectively, he owns Jack Charles, doesn't he? But I think, because, of course, you might have noticed in recent weeks, Jack Charles has been playing more and more first team, and I think I don't know. Don't quote me on this. I might be completely wrong about this. I really don't know. But Carty was always very clear about he didn't want to overexpose the young talent to Super League. Not after last season's what's happened. Obviously Harvey Barron and Lewis Martin, Lewis Martin, of course, he's getting in because at the moment he's Super League's top try scorer. Harvey Barron is getting in. Davy Litton has started getting in because obviously he'd come back from injury. Jack Charles, don't forget, he's come back from 2 injuries. And I'm just not sure if he plays a certain amount of games for our first team. I mean, he played again on Sunday. He came off the bench. if he plays a certain amount of games, I don't know if that doesn't maybe up the ante as to maybe how much Rovers would have to pay for Jack Charles. Because, of course, don't forget, he's contracted to us for next season as well.
Yeah.
And I know Rovers have said that they will pay money for him. However, if Jack Charles plays a certain amount of games and Hull say, well, we want, you're offering X amount, we want Y amount. When the Rovers start thinking, well, hang on a minute, this lad is a teenager. How much do we want to pay for him?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm probably completely wrong, but could that be a factor in this? I really don't know.
It could be. I mean, I first heard that Rovers wanted Jack Charles last season because I'd heard them linked with him before, and I think it's a good move for Rovers because he then becomes Mikey Lewis's successor when Mikey Lewis goes down under, as we expect him to do in the next few years. Then Jack Charles would probably be the one to step up and fill his shoes. But as you say, it's a case of measuring how much we're willing to spend.
Rovers would look at it, and if Jack Charles says, look, I don't want to sign for you, would Rovers really want a player there who doesn't want to be there?
Probably not, no. I wouldn't think so. Because the thing about Rovers' squad is that they all seem to be a very together unit. They all seem to buy into what Willie Peters wants and playing the style of rugby that Willie Peters wants.
It's like Jack Brown went to Rovers because he's a Rovers fan. He's a lifelong Rovers fan. He wants to be there.
Yeah.
Jack Charles is a lifelong black and white. He doesn't want to be at Rovers. He wants to be at Hull FC.
But on the other hand, you have the likes of Jez Litton and Dean Hadley, who were lifelong black and whites, but wanted to play for Rovers because of the opportunities they weren't getting in the first team then. But that was a completely different situation years ago. But
I mean, part of that, and no matter how much people might want to deny it, part of that was Hull wanting to help Rovers out to make sure they didn't get relegated, and and they got two cracking players out of us, to aid and abet them staying in Super League. However, this is different, I think. Jack Charles, everybody thought he was a Rovers fan because, of course, his dad is Chris Charles, who used to play for Rovers, and he was something to do with communications as well at Rovers, wasn't he, or something? He was working behind the scenes, and Jack Charles is supposed to have grown up around that. You go and ask Jack Charles if he's a Rovers fan or an FC fan. I know exactly what he'll tell you because he's a black and white through and through. If you cut him in half, it'd be black and white on the inside as well. And like I say, if he, and I've been told this by more than one journalist, the fact is Jack Charles doesn't want to go to Rovers, and I would suggest, Carty is maybe playing the long game here. Like I said, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling he maybe is. I'll ask questions at some point when it's appropriate to ask them. But like I say, I would suggest Rovers need to look at it and think, well, if he don't want to be at Rovers, do they want him at Rovers?
Yeah. I mean, because it could, of course, be a case of upsetting the apple cart as well, bringing someone in that doesn't want to be there.
Who have Rovers got coming through as a halfback in their reserves at the moment?
Lenny Ellis is coming through.
So what would Lenny Ellis think about this?
Yeah.
How would he feel? Because let's face it, Jack Charles is now an established regular Super League player. There's no getting away from that, is there?
No.
But at the same time, he's 19 years old. Or he might have just turned 20. I'm not sure. I'm sure the last time I looked, he was 19 years old. And like I say, if he's playing for Hull and that's increasing his value and how much it would cost Rovers, just at what point do they think, well, hang on a minute, the kid doesn't even want to be here.
Yeah.
How much are we actually willing to chuck at this?
Yeah.
But, you know, I would just be suggesting, you know, that there may be a different approach here. And I would think, you know, there's got to be a better way of going about this for Rovers.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Lachlan Galvin situation down under when he was sort of shopped around by his agent and the move was engineered by his agent. I just
Yeah,
hope the
and
same
that's
thing
what
doesn't happen
Yestin
with Jack
Harris is
Charles.
doing here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because of course, if Rovers pay a transfer fee for him,
Mm.
how much of that does Yestin Harris get?
Yeah, well, he'll probably also get a portion of the contract that Jack Charles signs as well, wouldn't he? So
Of course he would. You know, and you know the fact is he's playing regular Super League for Hull FC at the moment. So you know how much would Yestin Harris stand to make from that? Just
yeah,
to me, it just seems it seems wrong, and it's you know I think it's you've got to consider the most important thing to consider here is Jack Charles himself and what he wants, you know, and what this is
yeah.
doing to him. You know, having speculation like this about him, you know,
Mm.
what does it do to him personally?
At a
You
young
know,
age, like he is as well, it has an
yeah,
effect on a young psyche like that, doesn't it?
precisely. Of course it does.
Yeah,
But we'll see. We'll see what
yeah.
happens. But like I said, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. You know,
Mm.
it's been muted. You know, and some people might say, "Oh, well, yeah, it makes absolute sense." Blah blah blah. You know, but for me, looking from inside the whole FC camp, certainly to me, no, absolutely doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But what do I know?
Right, moving on to our final piece then. So we're definitely moving into the business end of the season now, and
Yeah.
tomorrow tomorrow was the round 22 starts off with Warrington and Catalan, two teams who sit well outside the playoff places. Do you think both of their seasons are functionally over, or do you think there's a way for at least Warrington
Well,
to
I
be
mean,
able to claw their
I,
way into the
I've
reckoning?
seen a podcast, an excellent podcast by the Rugby League Outsiders, and hello to Craig and Carl there because I know that they like Gerrim Onside, don't they? Um, they think Warrington have an easier run in than Hull do and
Mm,
have maybe a better chance of getting into the top six. However, they have a much worse chance of getting into the top six than Wakefield do. Because Wakey, I mean, they've got two games against Salford, haven't they? You know, and then they've
mm,
also got Castleford and Huddersfield. The only ones that they look like they're going to lose would be Wigan and Rovers. Um, Warrington have it easier than us, certainly. You know, starting against Catalan. But I mean, I've been looking at this and thinking, looking at the whole thing, the race between the three teams, Hull FC, Wakefield Trinity, Warrington Wolves, for the top six. Right now, it is Hull FC sitting in sixth place. It is in their hands. You would also say it's in Wakefield Trinity's hands because of their simpler running. It is certainly not in Warrington's hands. They're relying on others to do them a favour.
mm,
I would say Hull, they're 1 point ahead of Wakefield Trinity, but Wakefield Trinity have a much better points difference. And they're going to boost that on Sunday, and they're going to boost it on the final day when they play Salford again, aren't they?
mm,
I would. Hull need to look at. They need to win. If they're going to qualify for the playoffs, they need to win at least 4 of those last 6 games. Hull
mm.
have got, in those last 6 games, we've got Lee this weekend, we've got a trip to St Helens, we've got home games against Warrington and Leeds and Catalan, and then, of course, we've got the small matter of a Hull derby in there. You tell me, where are those 4 wins coming from out of those 6 games? Because if they can nail down 4 wins out of those 6, then Hull are in the playoffs, I think.
It's I remember seeing Hull's running through the Sky coverage at Salford and thinking, bloody hell, that's a big ask for Hull to come through and qualify. I mean,
But what I will say is, playing Leigh, playing away at St Helens, playing away at Rovers, playing at home against Catalan, certainly. But those higher up teams, I think at the moment that suits Hull because they're more those are the sorts of games that Hull have been winning. You know, I mean they went and demolished Wigan, for crying out loud, and before that they'd gone to Leigh and demolished them there as well, hadn't they? I can see them going and doing a job at St Helens next week, and I can certainly see them doing a job at home against Leigh this week. If they do that, then they only need 2 more wins. They'll win at home against Catalan, and they'll probably win at home against Warrington, won't they?
Probably.
I would think. You would suggest. And like I said, I'm still absolutely convinced that we're going to come and we're going to absolutely tan your backsides for you because I can't be there to see it in next month. You said it yourself. You wouldn't want to play us in a playoff semi-final at Craven Park. And I think given our away form this season, I don't think you're actually going to be particularly look forward to us turning up there next month.
No. I mean, there's the thought in the back of my head that hopefully by that time the League Leaders Shield will more or less be sewn up. Hopefully.
You would hope so.
Yeah. Yes. But that being said, it would be nice to get the win because that could actually confirm the League Leaders Shield against you lot. That would be good for us.
Also, talking the way that we are, that could be that 4th win that we need to nail down the playoff spot.
Yeah, I think you.
Can you imagine the whole derby with all that riding on it?
You can't. I don't think you can afford to look past Leigh though. Especially Leigh that are on the back of a loss, because I think Leigh will, knowing that they want to secure 3rd place at least, they will want it to be bounced back straight away from their loss at Leeds last week, which is the reason why I backed Leigh. Can
I just point something out though? Yeah. When we went and did that job at Leigh, in the previous 2 weeks, they'd lost a local derby and they'd lost a Challenge Cup semi-final. Leigh are a confidence animal, and they
confidence limpid, if you will.
You could see that they were expecting to beat Leeds. The way that they started when they got in front and all the rest of it, they expected to beat Leeds, and they didn't. And if we get that Leigh again this week, then Hull could do a job on them. I'm not saying that we will, but we could.
It's definitely one of the harder fixtures to call for me was Hull and Leigh. The two that were most difficult to call were Rovers and Wigan and Hull and Leigh.
Yeah,
for me because I think they're both games.
You've predicted Leigh to win, haven't you, this week?
I have, yes. So you'll be happy.
Well, chalk up the 2 points for us now, then. Because when you're saying that you're predicting that we're going to lose,
you usually win.
Precisely. You predicted we'd lose at Wigan. Yeah, but you predicted that we'd lose to Wakefield Trinity the other week.
Yeah. Well, I could only make predictions
just keep
based on
predicting
form.
That we'll lose and we'll be all right. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Well, we seem to win when you predict us to lose as well. So hopefully it works both ways.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so, because I predicted that you're going to get absolutely battered by Wigan this week.
I can't see it myself.
6-12.
I think it'll be another close game like the end of last season, and it'll come down to fine margins again, probably.
I'm just saying we've seen this so many times with Wigan. I mean, do you know what? When we went and won there the other week, afterwards, I was sat in the media suite waiting for Matt Pete to come in for his press conference. I thought he's going to be absolutely seething, he's going to be raging and all the rest of it. He walked in there as cool as a cucumber. It was almost like it had all gone to plan. It was like he was expecting it. He was completely laid back. I've never seen a coach like it after. I mean, Hull had absolutely dismantled Wigan. They had absolutely obliterated them. And he walked in there just like, yeah. And you know what? And I think part of that is down to the fact that he knows, and we all know, when Wigan need to turn it on, they'll suddenly flick a switch and that'll be it. And if they flick that switch this week, which they're prone to doing, you know, when it's getting to that time of year, I don't know. You know, I mean,
the hope for me is that we've now found the edge that you need to be a top side. We've got over the hump of winning the trophy. We're starting to win the games that we would normally lose.
Yeah,
I think that going to Wigan and winning is the last hurdle we need to get over to.
You need to beat Wigan at some point.
Yeah,
yes,
we do. I mean, we beat them last season, and that was at home.
Yeah. But then you had a Challenge Cup semi-final against them and got demolished.
Yeah.
And then you had a grand final against them, and, you know, for want of a better way of putting it, I don't think Wigan got out of third gear at Old Trafford against you.
No, I don't particularly think
it was a very boring game. It was a very plain game. It wasn't really fitting for a grand final. You know, Wigan did what they needed to do.
It was played as a final, and in that way, that I mean that when teams
maybe
play
played
a final,
with the nerves of a final. I don't know.
They tend to be a lot more conservative when you play in a final, because the same thing could be said of the Challenge Cup final as well, probably.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
it's all to be, that's the joy of sport, isn't it?
But getting back to your original point about Warrington and Catalan, yes, I think their seasons are over and done with. I don't see. I mean, Warrington, after the way they lost at Leigh and the way they've lost against Wigan, despite the guts and the determination and the character that they should, I think that's going to really hurt them. And I think that's enough is enough for them. Now, Catalan, I think their season has been over for a while, hasn't it, really?
Yeah. Here's the $1 million question. Do you think Sam Burgess will still be at Warrington next season?
No, I don't think he will be.
No, neither do I.
I think the Bears down under, they've got their big name coach in Mal Meninga, haven't they? Mal Meninga is going to want a big names assistant as well, isn't he? And do you know what I mean? You know, because I mean, we all thought that Brad Arthur might be one, or Willie Peters might be one that they but Sam Burgess, if you know, with all due respect, in Australia, if you had a choice for an assistant coach between Willie Peters and Sam Burgess, which name are you going for?
Willie Peters.
No, of course you're not. You're going for Sam Burgess because he's an icon. You know,
he is, but he hasn't won anything.
Won the grand final with playing with a broken cheekbone for 80 minutes.
I think if you're going on coaching,
I think Willie Peters, when Willie Peters goes back down under, it's for a head coach's job.
Yeah, and
I mean, would you see Willie Peters stepping down to being an assistant to Mal Meninga at the Bears?
No.
Precisely.
Not where he is at the moment.
I'm sure he would. You know, because, I mean, Sam Burgess, he maybe still needs to cut his teeth a bit more yet anyway. You know, he's struggled, hasn't he? You know, he's done good, but, you know, anyway, move on.
that just about brings us to an end. All I've got left now is to run through this week's upcoming fixtures. So,
and we've got to get a view of Jackson.
Yes, he's actually just come to join me. He's just come to
Hey!
sit next to me. Here he is.
Oh,
There he
hiya,
is.
Jackson!
I need to
Hey!
turn the background blare off because it's blaring him
Hello,
out.
Jackson!
There he
Hey!
is. There's our
Everyone's
little
favourite
mascot.
Rovers fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There he is.
Hey up! I've got Poppy jumping up to me. She's having
Oh,
a
she
look
might
at
have seen
Jackson.
Jackson and she wants
Yeah,
some of the spotlight herself.
Tell Jackson he's got a new girlfriend in.
Oh, did you hear that, Jax?
Yeah.
Right then, so this week's fixtures. Tomorrow
Yes.
night, Thursday, 8 o'clock, Warrington against Catalan. Then Friday, we've got two
Warrington will
games.
win.
There's two games on Friday. We've got Saints versus Huddersfield and
Saints will win
Rovers
that.
and Wigan versus Rovers.
Wigan will win that, in my opinion.
Saturday afternoon, Castleford against Leeds. I think you can
Leeds
back a Leeds win there, yeah. And then Hull against Lee, which is a toss of a coin, really.
Yeah, but I think Hull will win it just because of what I've seen this week and the vibe that I got from the press conference today.
And to round out the round, Salford will host Wakefield Trinity on Sunday at 3 o'clock.
Wakey will win that.
Yes.
And they'll still be outside the playoff places.
Down under, right, so down under is round 23 in the NRL. Penrith versus Melbourne tomorrow morning, UK time at 10:50 a.m. They do have some strange kickoff times. Australia. 10 to 11 and 10:35. And Friday morning at 9 o'clock UK time, New Zealand Warriors versus the St George Illawarra Dragons. And also
Warriors win that.
Friday morning as well, Sydney Roosters versus the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs are going to win that one.
I'll go for the Roosters for that because my mate John Hilton supports them.
Saturday morning, 6 o'clock, Cronulla versus Gold Coast.
Cronulla.
Yeah. 8:30 on Saturday morning, Brisbane versus the Dolphins. Last game on Saturday is.
I'm going for the Broncos for that because of Carty.
They've lost a couple of players though. The Broncos, haven't they? They've lost Reynolds and Ezra Mann, and so they're a bit light on the feet at the moment. Saturday, 10:35, 25 to 11. South Sydney versus Parramatta, another bottom of the table clash for South Sydney.
I'll go for the Bunnies.
And Sunday, 5 a.m. West Tigers versus Manly. I'll go for the Tigers there.
The Sea Eagles all day, isn't it?
And Sunday, 7:05, the North Queensland Cowboys versus the Newcastle Knights.
Cowboys, I think, probably.
Betfred Men's Championship, Toulouse versus Sheffield on Saturday evening. Toulouse, yeah. And on Sunday, there's Barrow versus Widnes.
I think Barrow.
Batley versus Oldham. That's an Oldham win there, I think. Doncaster versus Featherstone. That's a toss of a coin.
I'm going for Bonnie for that.
Halifax Panthers versus Hunslet. Halifax. And York Knights versus London Broncos.
I'm going for the Bronx. Go on.
I'm going for the Knights.
Go on, London. Because I want them back in Super League next season.
And then finally in the Men's League One, we've got on Sunday Midlands versus Keighley.
I'm going for the Midlands Hurricanes because our friends Carl and Craig at the Rugby League Outsiders, they're something to do with them, aren't they? I think.
Yeah.
Well, they're from that area anyway. Let's put it down to that.
Yeah. The Swinton Lions versus Rochdale Hornets.
Oh, let's go for Rochdale Hornets.
North Wales Crusaders versus Goal Vikings.
Oh, gotta be Goal, hasn't it? Gotta be the Vikings.
Got a back goal there. And then finally Newcastle Thunder versus Whitehaven to round out the round.
Oh, definitely Whitehaven.
Yes. So that's about it. I'd just like to give a quick shout out as well to a friend of mine, assistant coach of the Rovers PD team and plays for the Rovers women, Jade Smalley, got picked for the England Community Lions this week. So congratulations out to Jade. And I do believe there was a player from the Hull FC women's team, although I've forgotten her name. She also got picked for the Community Lions. So congratulations to anyone from the Hull teams who got picked for the Community Lions. But thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. It's a goodbye from me and it's a goodbye from him.
Thank you very much.